Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Welcome back, friends. Welcome to another video lecture by Kami Biology. Today in this video lecture we are going to talk about endogenous pyogenes. So let me write. Okay. Try to remove the spelling mistake by yourself. Now again, what are the endogenous pyogenes? Endogenous pyogenes are the cytokines which are usually secreted from the macrophages. Macrophages against the pathogenic organisms. Against pathogenic organisms. Okay. This pyogenes, if we talked about endogenous pyogenes, so they usually contain interleukin 1 and 6. Okay. Usually these endogenous pyogenes are activated against the fever, or they are usually elect the fever inside our body. So what are the function of this endogenous pyrogen? Elect means remove out. Okay, they elect or remove the fever, elect fever from our body. Okay, now here one question arises in our mind, that how the fevers is activated and regulated inside our body. You know, inside our body at the brain area, if I draw the brain here, the specific area of the center point, there are the small portion which we call that hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. Now this hypothalamus are usually responsible to regulate the body temperature. Okay, now if we talked about the body temperature, so our body temperature normally we have 37 centigrade. This is our normal body temperature. If we talked in Fahrenheit, so we have 98 Fahrenheit. Okay, sometime, not usually, sometime this temperature may be increased, which we can say that they will be increased from 37 to 37.5 centigrade, and in Fahrenheit we can say they will be increased in 99 Fahrenheit. Okay, which is also normal. Now, how the body temperature is disturbed, we can say like that. You know, our body temperature or the fever may be caused by these pathogenic microorganisms, but how? Usually the fever is caused by, if we talked about the fever, so it is usually caused by bacterial or viral infection. Now, how these bacteria and viruses reach to this specific area of the brain, which we call that hypothalamus, and as we talked, that hypothalamus can regulate the body temperature. Now once this hypothalamus are disturbed, this bacteria and viruses usually disturb the hypothalamic thermoregulatory activity. Okay, there are special kinds of process or special kinds of set which we call that hypothalamic thermoregulation. Now this bacteria and virus can disturb this hypothalamic thermoregulation activity. Once it is disturbed, so then the fever happen, and during this case the temperature is high. Okay, now during fever what actually happen? Interleukin 1 and 6 are released from the macrophages. Once it is released from the macrophages, in this case this interleukin 6 can activate the B cell and T cells. So they usually activate B cell and T cell. Now B cell and T cells will against the microorganisms. In this case, the B cell is the phagocytic cell and they engulf it. And the T cells can activate the other immune system, or they can activate the general immune system. Usually in this case, they can activate the specific immune system. And once the specific immune systems are activated, then due to this specific immune system, not two pathway are activated. Between these two pathway, only one pathway is activated. Either they activate cellular pathway, or they activate cellular pathway, or they activate humoral pathway. Humoral pathway. Not both pathways activated at a time. If you remember, we already talked. Now, once only one pathway is activated, then the process will be under the control. Or sometime what actually happen, these interleukin 1 and 6 are released out to the bloodstream. Okay, they will release this interleukin 1 and 6 released out through the bloodstream. Now once it's released into the bloodstream, then the blood will transfer this interleukin 1 and 6 to the hypothalamic area of the brain. And after the hypothalamic area of the brain, then they will induce or they will activate the neurons. Once the neurons are activated, then after that the prostaglands are secreted. They will secrete prostagland. Now once we get the prostagland, this prostagland will set up, or we can say they reset up the body temperature. Okay, so first of all they will regulate the body, they will increase the body temperature at 104 Fahrenheit or 103 Fahrenheit, just like that. Once the body temperature is increased at that temperature, so after that, after some time, gradually the body temperature reach to the 37 centigrade, and finally the process are under the control. So we can say that this fever usually destroy or induce the microorganism by 3 complementary pathway. So from this whole processes we get the idea that the fever usually destroy or induce microorganism by 3 complementary pathway. Now the first is activation of leukocytes. Leukocytes means B cell and T cell. Now once leukocytes are activated, so then the same process are happen as I explained, and the process are under the control. Second, we have activation of specific immunity. Activation of specific immunity. As we discussed that once B cell and T cells are activated, so they usually activate the specific immune system. Specific immune system either activates cellular pathway or humoral pathway. Okay, we already discussed the cellular and humoral pathway. If you missed that video lecture, it is present into my channel. You can watch it. Okay. Now once we get the humoral and cellular pathway, after some time what actually happen? We have another pathway pathway is activated against the viruses. We usually call that inhibition of microbes growth. They can also inhibit the microbes growth. Now how? Because during fever the iron concentration are increased. And for the growth of the microorganisms, they need irons for their multiplication, for their growth. So once the fever is at a high temperature, once the fever is reached to a high temperature, after some time, the iron concentration are decreased. So once the iron concentration are decreased, so the microorganisms growth are inhibited, and after some time the microorganisms are killed. Okay, there are two phenomena we have. Researcher says that sometime during fever, sometime the iron concentration are increased, which we call that hyperemia. Hyperemia. In this case, the iron concentration are increased, due to which the microorganisms growth are also increased, and a bacterial or viral infection may happen. Or due to the fever, we can say that they can also cause hypothermia. Now in this case, the microorganisms are die. Why? Because in this case, the iron concentration are decreased. Now once the iron concentration are decreased, so the microorganisms are die. Because microorganisms need the iron for their survival. So if iron concentration are decreased, so how the microorganisms are survive? Okay, so both condition are happens in fevers. Okay, for example, we have gonorrhea, gonococci. Let me write here. Now this gonococci usually cause gonorrhea. Try to remove the spelling mistake by yourself. Gonorrhea are usually the sexual disease. Okay, this gonorrhea usually affect, during this disease, the sexual organ of the male and female are affected. Now in this case, let's suppose we take the female sexual organ, and in this case, all of you better know that the female, they can perform the menstrual cycle. Now during menstrual cycle, what actually happen? Let's suppose during menstrual cycle, what happen? Menstrual cycle. Now during menstrual cycle, the iron concentration are increased, so they can increase the iron concentration. Now once the iron concentration are increased, due to this way, the gonococci bacteria are also increased, and due to this way, the female reproductive organ is affected. Okay, and this disease may be transferred to their partner if there is a sexual contact between them. Okay, so that's how the endogenous pyogenes are secreted from our body, and they can elect the fever. I hope you understand about this process. If still you have any confusion or problems related to this topic, you can write your question into a comment. Inshallah, I will give you answer as soon as possible. If you like this video, so make sure to hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe the channel to get more interesting videos like that. Thank you so much for watching.